Chapter 13. The next day I went to see Marco at his home. He and his dad live in a garden apartment complex, one of the older ones, on the far side of the big neighborhood where Jake and Rachel both live. I'd only been over there a couple of times. I think Marco is kind of embarrassed because he doesn't have much money. He used to live in a house just down the street from Jake, but that was when his mother was still alive, and before his father had a breakdown and quit his job. I knocked on the door. From inside I heard Marco's voice. "Dad, there's someone at the door. Put on your bathrobe, okay?" There was a delay, and then the door opened. Marco looked annoyed. "Cassie, what are you doing here?" "I wanted to talk to you." "To me? What about?" "About yesterday," I said. He hesitated. "Look, I'm spending the day with my dad, okay? We're thinking maybe we'll, do something together." "That's good," I said. Over Marco's shoulder, I could see his father. He was wearing a bathrobe and sitting on the couch. He was staring at the TV. That was normal for any dad, I guess, on a weekend morning. But I had the feeling that Marco's dad was always sitting right there in front of the TV. "Look, Marco, I just want to talk for a minute. Can I come in?" No, he said hastily. He stepped outside onto the concrete breezeway. Down below us was a swimming pool. It was drained and closed. Leaves covered the bottom. "Marco, I wanted to talk to you about yesterday." "What about it?" "You could have been killed, and it would have been my fault. This whole mission was my idea. Jake asked me if we should do it, and I said yes." Marco rolled his eyes. "That's it? Look, it wasn't your fault. It's this whole thing we're doing, this whole Animorph thing. I mean, it's been dangerous right from the start. It's insanely dangerous. What else is new?" I shrugged. "What's new, I guess, is that other times it was always someone else's idea." "Oh, I get it. You just don't like responsibility?" I winced. Was that it? Was I afraid of taking responsibility? "I don't want to get my friends killed. And let me assure you, your friends don't want to get killed either," Marco said with a laugh. "I'm completely opposed to getting killed." He grew serious, even sad. "But you know what? Sometimes bad things happen. That's the way it is." I leaned against the rail, looking down at the dismal, empty pool. "I see things die all the time," I said. "Animals, I mean. Sometimes you can't save them. Sometimes we even have to put them down, end their suffering. But my dad makes those decisions, not me. He's the vet. I'm just his assistant." "Look, here I am, all alive," Marco said, tapping his chest. "Get over it. I didn't have to go. It was my choice." "Were you scared?" For a while he didn't answer. He just came over and leaned on the rail beside me. "I'm scared all of the time now, Cassie," he said at last. "I'm scared to fight the Yerks, and I'm scared of what will happen if I don't. I look at Tobias, and what happened to him scares me to death. What if I get stuck in a morph someday? And most of all, I'm scared of him." I didn't have to ask who Marco meant by him. Visor 3. That first time in the construction site, when he murdered the Andalite, Marco made a twisted smile. "I see that in my head every day. And the Yerk pool." He shook his head. "That's something I would like to forget too." "Yes," I agreed. "There has been a lot of fear." "So was I afraid yesterday? Bet on it. I was scared plenty. It was like, man, it's not bad enough we have to fight Hork-Bajir and Taxons and Visser 3. We also have to fight sharks? Sharks?" He laughed, and hearing him brought laughter out of me. We both just stood there and giggled like idiots for a few minutes. It was that laughter you get after something really tense has happened. Relief laughter. We're still alive laughter. By the way, I was going to wait and tell everyone at the same time, but I think we have a problem." "What problem?" "It was in the newspaper this morning. 2 stories. One is about this guy who's going to be looking for some supposedly lost treasure ship off the coast. The other was a story about some big marine biologist guy who has a ship and is going to go is going to be doing some underwater exploration off our coast. Yeah, so? So, all of a sudden, our nearby ocean seems to be very interesting to people. Treasure hunters and underwater exploration at the same time? Controllers? He nodded. I think so. I think it's all a cover story to explain why 2 ships will be out there with lots of divers in the water. I think it's them. I think it's them, all right. And I think they're looking for the same thing you're looking for. I felt weak. The image the whale had given me surfaced in my mind, and the faint cry in my dreams, the cry for help. I can't ask anyone to go out there again, I whispered. This time we might not be so lucky. Marco looked uncomfortable. Cassie, you know how I feel about all of this. I think we have to take care of ourselves first, and our own families. He glanced back at his apartment door. On the other hand, I guess after what the Andalite did for us, I wouldn't feel like much of a human being if I didn't try to save whoever is out there. I don't know who's out there, I said. I don't know if it's even real. But you think it's an Andalite. I think it is. But Marco, I don't know. If someone gets hurt or killed just because I have these dreams, I can't make that kind of decision. But can you decide to do nothing? That's a decision too. I had to smile. Marco, you know, for a guy who's always joking around and being annoying, you're awfully smart. Yeah, I know, but don't tell anyone. It would destroy my image. I started to walk away. You know what was strange about yesterday? Marco said. What? The sharks. They were so totally deadly. I mean, we worry about Hork-Bajir and Taxons and Visser 3. You kind of forget that right here on little old planet Earth, there are creatures just as tough and dangerous. It would be funny if it wasn't some alien that ended up getting us, but some normal Earth creature. I didn't think it was funny at all. Marco grinned at my stone face. Okay, not funny haha, more like funny weird. Chapter 14. Okay, Jake said. Here's what we know. Or at least, what we think we know. We were all at Rachel's house again. It was a few hours after I had gone to see Marco. Tobias was perched on the windowsill. He didn't feel all that comfortable being inside for long. He liked the feel of the wind and the open air. First, we believe that somehow a surviving Andalite, or maybe more than one Andalite, is trapped out in the ocean. Hopefully Andalites can hold their breath for a really long time, Marco joked. Second, Cassie believed she could find this Andalite thanks to information from the whale. Everyone kept a straight face for about 10 seconds. Then, all at once, everyone cracked up. Information from a whale, Marco repeated, giggling. Have our lives gotten really weird, or is it just me? Tobias asked. Weird? Weird? Marco crowed. The talking bird wants to know if getting information on the location of an alien from a whale that you've just saved from sharks by turning into dolphins. You're suggesting that's weird? Jake smiled. Well, stay tuned. It just gets weirder. Cassie and I have been going over maps. She said the location we're looking for is pretty far out to sea. Too far for us to swim, and we still have any time left for our 2-hour limit. Well, that's the ball game, isn't it? Marco asked. Jake nodded at Rachel. I was talking to Rachel earlier, and she has an idea. Rachel stood up. She had been lounging on the bed. We hop a ride on a ship. First we morph into something like a seagull. Marco groaned. I hate plans that begin with the words, first we morph. We morph into seagulls, I said, picking up the plan we'd worked out. Then we fly out into the shipping channel. We land on a tanker or a container ship or something that's going to go in the right direction. We morph back to human, rest up, let the ship get us closer, then jump over the side, morph into the dolphin, and go the rest of the way. Oh, well, when you put it like that, it sounds so easy, Marco sneered. How about if we just walk over to Chapman's house and tell him to call Visser 3 and finish us off? It's so much easier, and the results will be the same. Jake sighed. It is dangerous and risky, and there are about 100 things that can go wrong. Plus, as Marco has told us, we have reason to think the controllers will be out there, searching for something, the same thing that we're searching for. This idea just gets better and better, Marco said. Let's put it to a vote, Jake suggested. I'm in, Marco said instantly. A split second behind him, Rachel and her usual, I'm in. Everyone stared open-mouthed at Marco. Just once, I wanted to beat Rachel to it, he explained. Tobias? Jake asked. I don't think I should vote. I have to sit this one out. I can't stay up that long with nowhere to set down. Sorry. You had the dreams, just like Cassie, Jake pointed out. Do you think we should do this or not? Tobias fixed his fierce glare at me. Yes, Cassie and I both had the dreams. I think they're real. Okay, looks like we go, Jake said briskly. Tomorrow, first thing in the morning. We can't wait any longer. The longer we hold off, the greater the chance the Yeerks will beat us to it. We left Rachel's house. Marco split off in one direction. Tobias flew off to some unknown destination. Jake and I walked together for a while, even though it was out of his way. I think Tobias is feeling kind of left out, I said. We should talk to him later. Remind him how many times he's helped us out. That's a good idea, Jake agreed. We walked a little farther in silence. It's one of the nice things about the relationship Jake and I have. We can be quiet together and feel okay about it. This is really dangerous, isn't it? I asked him. He nodded. Suddenly I stopped walking. I don't know why, but I had this need to tell him something. I took his hand and held it between both of mine. Jake? I said. Yes? It was on the tip of my tongue, but then it seemed ridiculous to say it. So instead I said, Look, don't ever get hurt, okay? He smiled that smile. Me? I'm indestructible. The way he said it, I almost believed him. But then as he went his way and I headed towards home, I glanced up at the sky. Against the blaze of sunset, I saw a flash of russet tail feathers. Tobias, our friend, who had been trapped forever in a body not his own. None of us was indestructible. Chapter 15. Hey, half a sandwich. It's salami. Look over there. Is that a jujube? Pizza! Pizza! Part of the crust is, and it's one of those stuffed crusts. Fortunately, one thing we always have plenty of in the Wildlife Rehabilitation Center, also known as my barn, is seagulls. We acquired the seagull DNA, the four of us, which, with Tobias watching from the high rafters, morphed into the new bodies. I have been a bird before, an osprey to be exact, one of the types of hawk. But gulls are different in some ways. For one thing, they're scavengers, not predators. So as we took wing and flew in a rush of white from the open hayloft, I noticed different things, felt different things. My seagull mind was not searching for mice or scurrying animals. It was much more open-minded. My seagull intelligence looked for anything that could possibly be food. Fortunately, the gull brains were close enough to the other bird brains we'd all experienced that it was fairly easy to control them. We didn't waste a lot of time getting started. Although, once we did get started, everyone was constantly pointing out food. Hey look! French fries on the ground! Whoa! That's half of Three Musketeers by that car! Ooh! Look at the dumpster behind that McDonald's! Sometimes you just have to accept the animal's basic mindset and go with it. There's the beach, Jake said as we flapped and soared and flapped some more. It's easier being an osprey in some ways, much less flapping. Once we were out over the water, we could at least stop scanning for food, mostly. Hey, is that a bag of potato chips floating down there? We flew low, just a few dozen feet above the water, not like hawks, who can ride the thermals up to the bellies of the clouds. But Tobias wasn't much higher than we were now. There are no thermals over water, and he was having to flap to stay aloft. We flew on, skimming the choppy surface of the water. Hey look, Rachel said. Over to the left. Sleek gray shapes sliced through the water, up, down, breaking the silvery barrier between sky and sea. It was a school of dolphins. You know, sometimes this is just so wonderful, Rachel said. I mean, we're flying. And later we'll be like them, at home in the water. Yeah, just us and the sharks, Marco said darkly. Still, it is cool, Rachel said. There's a ship up ahead, Jake announced. You just now noticed it? Tobias laughed. Wow, seagull eyes aren't exactly great, are they? It's a container ship called the Numar. It's from Monrovia. You want to know what color the captain's hair is? Show off, Jake grumbled. Hawkeyes are totally amazing. As long as it's sunny out, Tobias can read a book from like 3 blocks away. It was hard flying to catch up to the ship. It was moving fairly fast, and by the time we were close, I was exhausted. The ship was gigantic, painted a rusty blue, with a deck longer than a football field. The superstructure was all crammed toward the back. That's where the crew would be, so we flapped forward, hoping to find someplace private. The deck was stacked with containers, big steel boxes like trailers. Row after row of them lined the deck, and we could see hundreds more down the hold. We settled in the narrow space between 2 rows of containers, far forward. It was like having walls all around us, corrugated metal walls that went high over our heads. Tobias, how much time? Jake asked. Tobias twisted his head down to see the tiny watch strapped to his talon. It's been about an hour and a half. We decided to resume our human shapes. The space between the rows of containers was even narrower when we were fully human again. Brr, it's chilly out here, I said. The steel deck was cold beneath my bare feet, and even though the sun was high in the sky, we were in shadow. Man, I swear, this is the worst thing about morphing, Marco said. Can someone please figure out how to morph shoes and maybe a sweater? Come on, Cassie, you're the morphing genius. I'm sick of these morphing outfits. But you look so cute in spandex, Rachel teased him. Plus, they aren't exactly fashionable. All I'm saying is, uniforms. Something cool looking and warm. Warm would be nice. When winter comes, we are all going to be some sad little Animorphs. I have a more important question, Rachel said. How do we know when we're there? You know, our destination. Jake made a who knows face. I figured the ship is going like, 20 miles per hour? Figure an hour, and that puts us 20 miles out, right? Rachel pointed a finger at her forehead and said, Jake's a total mathematical genius. 1 hour at 20 miles per hour? Right away, he figures out that's 20 miles. Jake laughed. That's about all the math I can do. Actually, we're moving about 18 miles per hour, Tobias said. We all just stared at him. I fly along the road sometimes and watch the car speedometers, so I have a pretty good idea how fast I'm flying. When we were flying alongside the ship, I clocked it. Okay, 18 miles an hour, more or less, straight south, Marco considered. That would put us within a couple miles of where Cassie thinks we should go. I winced. Every time anyone said something about me deciding where to go and what to do, it made me nervous. I'd better head back, Marco said regretfully. I don't want to try and fly 18 miles back without a rest, and if I stay on this ship, I'll end up in Singapore. Singapore? Rachel asked. Yeah, I read the captain's log as we were flying alongside. That's where we're heading. Tobias flew off, leaving us the little watch. It was extremely dull waiting for an hour, with nothing to do but try and guess what was in the big containers all around us. On the other hand, we knew what we had to do next, and would not be boring. So basically, we were happy just to be bored for a while, huddling together to stay warm in the whipping ocean breeze. After a long time, Jake checked the watch. It's been about an hour. Cassie, what do you think? I don't know, I admitted. I guess I was hoping that when I was back in Dolphin Morph, I would be able to make sense of more of the details the whale communicated to me. It was mostly images, and some of the images were about sounds and currents and water temperatures and stuff you can't see from the surface. Jake thought for a moment. Oh, well, now is as good a time as any time, I guess. Let's head for the side. We stood up, uncramping our cold, stiff legs and arms. We moved along the row of containers toward the left side of the ship. The port side, as they say. We reached the side. There was a solid steel railing that ran all around, about waist high. Jake checked to see if we'd be in view of the bridge, and we headed forward a little more to a blind spot where no one should be able to see us. The 4 of us leaned over the rail and looked down at the water. It looked like it was 1,000,000 miles below. Marco whistled. Man, that is some high dive. No big deal for a seagull or a dolphin, but a mighty long way for a human, I agreed. We can't morph up here. We never get our dolphin bodies over the side, Rachel pointed out. Nope, Jake agreed. We have to jump in with our human bodies. All except Marco. He can't swim. I thought he could morph up here, and then we could all just shove him over the side. Rachel looked skeptical. Jake, when Marco is in dolphin morph, he'll weigh like 400 pounds. Jake looked worried. I kind of didn't think about this when I was planning. I had a sinking feeling. The plan was falling apart before it had even begun. I'll lean against the railing, Marco suggested. I'll start morphing then. Before I lose my legs, you guys help shove me over. I'll finish morphing within a few seconds of hitting the water. Unless the water knocks you out and you just sink, I said flatly. Forget it. Let's just morph back to seagulls and fly home. This is insane. Insane? Marco echoed. Hey, that's my word. Look, we came this far. I don't care, I yelled, surprised at my own passion. I'm not going to be responsible for anyone dying. This isn't going to work. I don't know where I am. I don't know where we're going. I don't know what to do. Marco laughed. Excellent pep talk, Cassie. Now I'm really looking forward to this. I was going to yell at him, something like, Look, Marco, this is not a joke. But when I looked at him, I saw that his face was bulging way out, forming a long, grinning beak. He had already started to morph. I'm not going, he started to say, but his mouth no longer worked. He was growing larger, straining his weak human legs with his weight. His arms were flattening into flippers. Now, Jake said. He grabbed Marco's flipper arm. Rachel and I jumped forward and seized his legs just as he began to shrivel. Heave, Jake yelled. Marco, half human, half dolphin, tumbled backward over the railing and fell into the sea. Let's go, Jake said. Yee-haw, Rachel said with a wild grin. She jumped up on the railing, balanced for a moment like the gymnast she was, then launched herself off in a neat swan dive. Jake and I exchanged a glance. Rachel, he said, and rolled his eyes. She's your cousin, I pointed out. On the count of 3. 1, 2, ah! I climbed over the railing and launched myself as far from the steel wall of the ship as I could.